Before we begin, just let me get 30 seconds of your time. I recently wrote a book with a few of the guys here at Comicstorian called The Rise of Comic Book Movies. In it, we go over how superhero movies got started and then became toy gimmicks, and then they turned into the highest grossing films of all time. I'll put the link down below if you're interested in supporting us through purchasing that book, and that's really all I'm going to say in that matter today. Now, with the announcement of Justice League Action, I thought it would be fun to remember what I personally consider the golden age of DC cartoons, the DC animated universe. While a good chunk of fans are aware of the shows that are in this mix and what happened to them, there still is a small number that didn't understand all of the original DC animated universe cartoons and has no idea that they all shared a continuity. So basically, all of the cartoons that I'm going to name off have all taken place in the same universe, just in a different location. But here's where things get confusing. Not every show and movie is in this universe, so here is the list that DC states is in the same universe. Also, keep in mind, only the people who ran the projects know the full story as to what happened behind the scenes. So what I'm going to give you is based off the public statements and knowledge of the shows. The whole thing started with Batman the Animated Series. The show launched on September 5th, 1992, and it ran for a total of 3 years. This is the classic Batman cartoon that many of us remember from our childhoods. The show started the idea of a shared universe when it broke outside the normal Batman cast, introducing us to Zatanna the Magician and Jonah Hex. Right when this series ended, DC decided to launch a follow-up called Superman the Animated Series in 1996, which ran into the year 2000. Shortly after that launch, we got another Batman show titled The New Batman Adventures. This was a relaunch of Batman so that they could shift the focus of the show to the Bat family and is considered a full continuation of the original Batman animated series. Another thing that they did in The New Batman Adventures was they shifted the animation to make it fall in line with the style that they were using in Superman due to budgetary reasons. Now, the Superman animated series introduced more to the DC universe by giving us Flash, Dr. Fate, Steel, the Green Lantern Corps, and Aquaman. But not only did this continue the idea of, hey, the entire DC universe is here and it's huge, but it was also the first time that we cemented the idea that not only is the DC universe much larger than these shows are showing you, but these little ones, they're all tied together. Superman Adventures had 3 crossovers with the new Batman Adventures, and on top of that, the new Batman Adventures had a crossover with the new Superman animated series, and it also introduced us to heroes such as Etrigan and the Creeper. While the Superman series would continue until the year 2000, the new Batman Adventures were canceled in 1999 and replaced with the amazingly hugely popular concept of Batman Beyond. The idea behind this is that we would move into the far future of the DC animated universe when our heroes were old or gone, and in the new era, a Batman was needed, bringing us Terry McGinnis. This series really started to play with the concept of linking everything together in a much more meaningful way. Not only did we continue the idea that everything from the past 10 years of the cartoons is in the same timeline, but they also brought the idea further by stating that Terry was some sort of clone of Bruce Wayne, and that there was also a behind-the-scenes relationship with characters such as Batman, Dick Grayson, and Batgirl, adding an odd love triangle in which Batman got Batgirl pregnant, Dick Grayson was furious over it, hence why he wasn't in the new Batman Adventures, and how Batgirl had a miscarriage. This is all explored much further in the comic book tie-ins to the series, but it was suggested in the show. At this time, there really was no question that not only were all of these cartoons tied together, there was an entire separate timeline from the normal DC comic books. Anyway, the Batman Beyond show introduced us to Zeta and The Call while crossing over with the Zeta Project. Now, if you're normally just a comic book fan, then you're probably wondering who the heck is Zeta and the Zeta Project. Well, this is a spin-off show considered a part of the DC animated universe, but he's never made it into the comic books. This was their first attempt to make new heroes and stories entirely in the DC animated universe. This show ran for about 2 seasons, starting in about 2001, but the show was all about not trusting the NSA and not battling against terrorists for various reasons. So 9/11 happened, and we don't fully know why the show was cut off. We kind of have an idea it had something to do with 9/11. But back before Zeta came out, we had another show that a lot of you guys remember, and I get a lot of requests to cover, Static Shock. This is a character that DC acquired in their purchase of Milestone Comics, and the show proved to be hugely popular. Not only did they launch various comic books related to him, but they also got to try out other Milestone characters in their comics. This show crossed over with the new Batman Adventures, Justice League, Batman Beyond, and the Superman Animated Adventures. It ran until 2004 when it was officially canceled. In 2001, we got the Justice League TV show, which is considered a direct sequel to both Batman and Superman's solo series. At this point in the history, so many characters had been introduced that it was time to form the League, and the original Justice League show focused on the founders of of the League. Then in 2004 it was cancelled, but within a month the sequel was brought out, Justice League Unlimited. The idea behind this one was that there were so many superheroes in the Justice League at this point that we had to follow different superheroes throughout the series, and most of the episodes were standalone episodes following some minor superheroes teamed up with well-known superheroes. Now, this was the beginning of the end for the DC animated universe. Warner Brothers decided that they didn't want confusion with other properties that they were developing, so elements being used elsewhere were not permitted to be used in this TV show. This is a mandate that carried on in Warner Brothers for a very long time, even affecting the TV shows Arrow and The Flash early on in their developments. Now, in this day and age, they've gotten rid of that and we're allowed to use the same characters in cartoons, TV shows, and movies, but this wasn't the case when they started doing this. The show titled The Batman was being developed, and they didn't want people to think that it was in the same universe that they had just spent the last 15 years creating. The Batman was all by itself in its own unique universe, so pretty much any of Batman's supporting cast became off limits to Justice League Unlimited. They were still allowed to use Batman though, as he was a member of the Justice League. The same thing happened to Aquaman and his cast, as they were trying to make a live action TV show at this time that was in the same vein as Smallville. Teen Titans, being its own show, was also not allowed to be in the DC animated universe, so it created a situation where none of the Teen Titans were permitted to be in the Justice League Unlimited TV show, and none of the Justice League were allowed to be in the Teen Titans TV show. That's why in the Teen Titans TV show, other than a few mentions, we really didn't get anything heavy involving the Justice League. As more and more heroes were becoming off limits, they started to dive into more and more obscure superheroes. And this is where a lot of people really fell in love with characters like The Question and Renee Montoya. Then they decided to use the show to end a lot more of the DC animated universe. Batman Beyond had been cut short, so they decided to create an episode in Justice League Unlimited called Epilogue, and it's there that we discovered the true origins of Terry McGinnis and the Batman legacy. Now, during the 15 years that this universe existed, there were 4 Batman movies made to tie into it. Batman the Mask of the Phantasm, Batman and Mr. Freeze Sub-Zero, Batman Beyond Return of the Joker, and Batman Mystery of the Batwoman. There were also short films, Dark Knight's First Night, which was a recreation of the pilot episode of Batman the Animated Series, Chase Me, Batman Beyond, which was an anniversary episode that was put out recently, allowing you to recap all of the Batman Beyond stuff, and then 2 web cartoons, Gotham Girls and Lobo. We also had a bunch of tie-in comics that I'm actually really debating covering here in the channel, maybe making a DC Animated Universe day, but I'm not going to list them all off because there is a crap ton of them. Primarily, they're all taking place in the Batman Beyond universe. Now in the end, once the Justice League Unlimited series ended, Warner Brothers decided to stop continuing the timeline of the DC Animated Universe. It was decided that they would make new shows and new properties, and they didn't want to rely on this universe that they had just spent 15 years creating. The last script for the animated universe was Justice League Worlds Collide, which was intended to serve as a storyline between the Justice League TV show and the Justice League Unlimited TV show, but it was adapted to be a standalone movie with new voice actors titled Crisis on Two Earths. While WB would love for you to attach to a new project so they can build something else up, like the DC Animated Movie Universe, which started up in 2007, which we'll be covering in another video, the fact is the legacy of the original animated universe stands forever, and it's still an amazing series of shows, all tied together in a beautiful package. Characters were literally created for the animated universe, and due to the popularity of this universe and those characters, they became comic book mainstays, carried over as their roles in the animated universe were kind of wrapping up. Nora Fries was created to make Mr. Freeze more relatable and give him a sadder origin, and it's now become his official origin about his wife and him trying to save her. Harley Quinn has proven so popular that she spun off into her own comic book series and then eventually became her own superhero, and now is getting her own movie. Renee Montoya's Sewer King, Condiment King, Roxy Rocket, Grey Ghost, and Lockup are all from the Batman TV shows, and they've been carried over into the comic books now. Condiment King has been mentioned in multiple lists as one of the worst villains ever, and he started in this TV show. For Superman, we were given Mercy Graves and even Livewire, who has now had various incarnations in live action. Of course, no one can forget Terry McGinnis of Batman Beyond was also created entirely as a TV show, and he was carried over and brought into the mainstay DC universe. So that's what happened with the DC Animated Universe. Maybe you knew how this ended, maybe you didn't, but I wanted to fill you in and I figured I would let you know the situation. Now, before any of you guys commented down below, no, Young Justice is not considered a part of the DC Animated Universe, and I'll be doing a separate video as to what happened to Young Justice and where we stand with a potential season 3, probably in a couple of weeks. So if you're interested, give this video a like so I know you want to know what happened to properties that you loved as kids, because there's a lot of information out there, you just gotta fish it out to find out what happened to these things. I'm Benny the Comicstorian, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel, follow me on Twitter at Comicstorian and Instagram at Comicstorian, and like I said at the beginning, if you want to support us and the projects that we do, please pick up our book. We really would appreciate it.